So I think the first thing we should do is probably introduce ourselves. I think that's a pretty essential part of the whole thing.
Well, I guess so.
Knowing who we are.
Yeah, nobody knows who we are yet.
Yet.
Yeah.
One day we won't have to introduce ourselves.
That is correct.
We're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, we should do that.
As a courtesy. Hi, I'm David.
I'm Donna.
And this is Creative Conversations with David and Donna. That's why we're both here.
Yep, that would make it accurate.
This is our first show of many more to come.
Absolutely. And so I guess you want to know why we're doing this broadcast together. So I was David's teacher, and he was in 3 of my classes for 2 years when he was in high school, and we worked together and have a great dynamic and enjoy talking together. So we're going to share our conversations with you.
We always talk, and at the end of every conversation, we say we should really record this and start a podcast. And finally, here we are doing that. Set up a mic and let's go. But this isn't the first time we've done that, actually. No, it was a pretty important moment in your life, as I found out recently. I didn't even realize how big of a deal it was.
I did tell you at the time. I did tell you.
I just didn't know that that's what you meant. But you want to explain what we're talking about here?
But you forgot to talk about our projects.
I know, but I felt...
Well, we can come back to that.
Well, that's what I think. I felt like that would be a good transition right there.
I understand what you're saying. Okay, so when David and I'll just talk about your projects, because I feel like we have to say that to lead into what happened.
Okay.
David and I worked together on a play that we wrote for the theater class he was in for me, and we enjoyed writing together. And then he also videoed the play, and afterwards we made a commentary over the play. So we were talking into a microphone as the play was recording, so we could add our thoughts to it. And I just really enjoyed doing that. And then playing it back and hearing my voice made me really understand how much I enjoyed hearing my voice.
It's a little pompous.
It's a bit pompous, but I mean, I'm a teacher and I've talked for a living all of my life. I've just never heard my voice. Like, I mean, we put it on the web. I mean, anybody in the whole world could listen to us talking.
Yeah, and I'll link to that down in the description.
Oh, absolutely. We were so goofy. But some of my other students in theater actually enjoyed the commentary version of the play better than the play itself, just hearing us talk about it and the reasons that we wrote the scenes the way we did and our thoughts about the scenes as they were performed. And I just decided after I heard my voice from David's podcast for, I guess, commentary, that I really wanted to do more of that. It really was a pivotal thing for me, very much so.
I was really fascinated when we did that and you listened back to it and told me how much you like hearing your voice about it. Because most people, at least what I've found, is they record something or they're in a video and they watch it back and they hate the way they sound because you sound so different. You know, I actually recently read that your voice sounds different to you because you're hearing it through all the muscles and bones and stuff in your mouth. But when you hear it back through a speaker, there's nothing like that. That's your actual voice. And most people hate that, but you were all about it.
Well, I've also listened to recordings of my voice enough to know what I sound like. And I've heard so many other people say, oh my God, do I sound like that? And I'm like, yeah, you do. And I know enough about how I sound, but it was not the sound of my voice in that way. It was more like I have something to say sound of my voice. It just really made me feel like I could do this. Right. You know, like, wow, I have something to say in this way, and it just stuck in my head. Yeah, it really did.
It really stuck in her head, and she expressed that to me, and she actually suggested the idea of us starting a business and starting a podcast and interviewing people and all of this kind of stuff a year ago when that happened, and I thought that she was joking.
He doesn't know me.
I thought that she was just joking. I was like, yeah, that'd be cool, great. But I didn't think much more about it. I went off to college, and college is hard and busy, and she started up school again.
Right.
And so the idea kind of fizzled out. But I think for the both of us, it always popped in our head every once in a while, and we still stayed in contact. We wrote another play.
Yes, we did.
In that time, Camp Dinky Springs, which we never recorded a commentary for, but I don't think we ever got a video recording of that one.
Long story there. But you were not there to do it, and so it just didn't get done that way. I think we have something, but it was not for you to work with on your computer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
it just didn't work out.
It's all right though. The commentary for our first play, High School, Another Day, Another Test, is still up. It's still great, and I'll link that in the description. Like I said, you can check it out there.
Right.
But she wanted to do more of that, and I just didn't believe her. But recently, she said,
"You remember what I said last
yeah,
summer?" And I told him, I remember saying, I still think about that. And he was like, yeah. I'm like, are you interested? Would you actually like to do this? And I think that it was at that point you realized I was truly
yeah.
serious. It's like, wait, she's bringing this up again. She really wants to do it. I'm like, I do. I really want to do this.
And I still don't know exactly how we got here. I couldn't tell you the story because I know we started working together again to finish up Camp Pinky Springs and get it ready for submission to a publisher.
Yes.
And now we're here, and that's all I know. I can't fill in the blanks really.
And now you're in your teacher's home.
Now, yeah, this was something I never thought that would ever happen. That's so weird. Life is so weird.
Life is weird. That's something you say a lot. Life is weird.
Life is weird.
Life is weird.
Things
But you make it happen.
Yes.
You make what you want to happen.
Which is a big part of what we believe and what we really want to express to the world. And we were so excited to do this, and we knew we had to start somewhere. There were so many things going around in our mind, which is why I can't even remember how it started, because there are so many things that happened. But what I do remember, because it's very important, is our mission statement, which you said, David, we have to narrow this down.
Yes.
That's the most important part, and we can't start until we have that. And you were right, because the second that we were actually able to write this down on paper, what it is we're going to do, everything else took off from there.
Yep.
So you want to tell them what that is?
I shall. We actually thought about quite a few things. We knew that we wrote well together and that we enjoyed our ridiculous conversations that we have. We hope you do too. But there's so much more to what we want to do. We ended up saying that our mission is to use our creativity to inspire people to start expressing their unique gifts in a way that benefits the world. And I really believe that's so important. The idea of inspiration is something I've always tried to do. I really want people to understand that they come to this world with a unique gift, and if they can not be afraid to show it, that it will benefit everyone. And I think that we both feel that way, and we both want to share our creativity in that way.
Something that I think is really important for everyone is having an avenue to express to the world who you are, what it is you do, what it is you contribute, and just to put your stuff out there in the world. I started blogging about 6 months ago just to put my stuff out there in the world. I didn't really care if anyone was reading it. I just wanted to know that it was out there in the world, and I want to give people a platform to do something like that, because me and you both know plenty of people just near us that we're friends with in our community that are so incredibly talented and have so many things to share, but may not have an avenue to do so.
Right.
And I think it's going to be really cool to be able to interview all sorts of people like that. People higher up in the community, people lower down. You may have never heard of it. It could be a high school student you've never heard of, but they have something to share with the world. You could have something to share with the world, and we want to know what that is, and we want to help you put that out there, because there's nothing more empowering than just knowing that somewhere there's a way for people to read or see or hear what it is you do.
Yes.
Even if they aren't, it's there, and you know it is.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
And I think that's really important. I also really, really love writing and putting my thoughts and my art into the world. That's why I wanted to do this. That's why I finally got on board with Miss Vanos. I need to work on that. I've called her Miss Vanos for so long, but now we're the David and Donna podcast. I need to work on that. I'll get there eventually.
We'll get there. It's all right.
It's a process. If you hear me talking about Vanos, it's Donna. And I love writing. I love putting my thoughts and my art in the world, and I am happy to work with Donna to do something like that. I don't think there's anybody else that either of us would want to do this with or be able to do this with.
This is supposed to happen.
I believe that too. I love movies and entertainment. I love comic books and so much more. And I really want to explore how forms of art such as that can change people's lives, just like they've changed mine before. And I want to talk about the things I like. So whenever we are doing our own content and making even more things than just a podcast, whenever we're writing, making videos, making smaller, shorter form podcasts, that's what I'll be talking about. That's what I'll be writing about, because that's what I'm very passionate about. And I want to get out there with the world. And I'm so grateful that Donna has given me so many avenues to do so, and then I want to do the same thing for many more people.
Absolutely. And that's all so interesting to me. I like hearing what you're saying, but I think from my perspective, since I've been a teacher for so long, I'm about to start my 31st year as a teacher. I've always been creative as a person, but I wanted that to always be the focus of my classes as well. I wanted every student I taught to understand that I did believe that they were special and whatever that might mean to them or whatever they have to offer the world. So no matter what I taught, and I've taught many things, I taught English for 30 years, but I've also taught speech and I've taught theater. And when I'm in any class, I want what I teach to connect somehow to the person's passion. And, it might be writing, it might be art, like physical art, drawing, painting. And every student I've ever taught is like, let's do projects. What do you want to do? Do you want to write about it? You want to paint about it? And I just have always thought that was so important because I could, read a book to them and give them a test, but if they didn't connect with it in some way, I didn't really feel like they learned anything. So as a human, other than a teacher, I've done a whole lot of work just learning about things to better myself and learn things like how to handle my anger and how to not constantly be worried about things. And that's also something I'm very passionate about, just learning how to deal with the issues that we face in this world so that we can be at peace and then have an easier avenue, an easier way to express the creativity that we want to come through us. So other than encouraging people to share their creativity with us, if you would love to talk to us about anything else, issues or whatever, we're glad to talk with you about that as well, because we both have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, we do.
We have a lot to say to each other about that in particular, because we talk about all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I just personally would love to share some of the things I've learned. I do remember one of my students called me a teacher therapist, and I thought that was a huge compliment because I did truly do and still care very much about all of my students and every aspect of their life, not just can you learn how to, do correct subject verb agreement in English, but what's going on in your life and how can I help you be a person, not just a better student. So those are the things I would focus on if I did my individual work.
Well, so far outside of the classroom, I have never had to use the Pythagorean theorem,
No.
but I have had to deal with lots of stress and issues and
Right.
anger and
Yes.
all sorts of things that I don't know how I would have dealt with them if it wasn't for you and being able to talk to you and the things that you've taught me. And I think you've been able to see that, haven't you? The growth in me.
Yes.
I can see it in myself.
Right.
And just the way that I think about things now, based off of not just you, but mainly you.
Yeah.
And the way that I even talk to people in my family and my friends now when they have their issues, I start saying things and this is what Donna told me.
At the time it was Miss Benos who told me.
At the time it was Miss Benos, yeah.
Right.
And I think that's so important that you're able to share that with your students because I think that is a very important part of teaching is just how to be prepared for life.
Yes.
Which obviously I think everyone can agree that school doesn't actually do a great job of preparing you for how to deal with life.
Yeah, we could do a whole separate podcast series on school, but I think that's not going to be my focus. I've done 30 years of it. I plan to do 5 more. And of course, it's part of my life, but I think the idea of the education system might be a separate.
Oh, no, I don't want to open up that can of worms because I have before, and that turned a 30-minute lunch into a 2-hour lunch. So
Exactly.
We're going to keep that, which I don't mind, by the way, but we're going to keep that. We're going to keep that nice and tight and sealed, and put it over in the corner, and we'll put a little sticky note that says to go check on it in a little bit. At some point,
maybe. Ask you, did I make you late for something one day, or what do you mean?
No. I'm just saying that we probably would have sat at that Chinese restaurant for 30 minutes.
You're right.
But it became a 2-hour sitting at the Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, because I had to start off about. I'm sorry.
No, don't. I was about to say that's probably a big point and where we decided, we really should do this. I know you've said that before because that was one of our most recent long, big conversations where we were like, why aren't we?
Yeah, that's when you said you should do a blog. You remember?
Oh, I told you should.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, once again, that was an offhanded comment, but here we are doing this.
I think it was probably not much longer after that. I'm like, do you remember when I said that?
It wasn't much longer after that. That's when we started working together again. We had always stayed in contact, but just until then, because we went to go Queen,
The
the prop room,
Yes.
where we keep all the props for the high school theater that you
Mm-hmm.
are in charge of,
Right.
and that I was a big help with when I was there, and still try to be now that I'm gone. Being in Donna's classes was always, everyone describes it as a weight being taken off your shoulders whenever you go into that classroom, because you're dealing with math and science and history and all these stressful things. But you go to Ms. Van Oss's class and you can just, you go to Donna's class. Well, Ms. Van Oss, no, it is
Yeah,
Ms.
you
Van
have to
Oss's
say Miss
class.
Van Oss when you're talking about school. Okay.
You go into Ms. Van Oss's class and you can just chill for a second. But the first class I took at first was a speech class, which I wasn't supposed to take. It was an accident.
Mm-hmm.
I think I put it as like my third alternative class, just in case everything else I wanted was taken. And I got it, and it was like I don't even remember. I don't even remember scheduling that, which is a big reason I think we both feel like this was all supposed to be happening, because I wasn't supposed to have that class.
Right.
And everybody told me that I shouldn't take a speech class, because before being in Donna's classes, I was very timid and very closed off. I didn't really want to talk to people or share it. I had my friends and I was good. I didn't really need to be out there, and I never wanted to be the center of attention.
Right.
Which kind of became a problem. Has changed dramatically, because now I'm speaking into a mic for the world. So I was actually pretty nervous to go in the speech class, but after just a couple times being in there, I became extremely excited to do our first speech, because I realized that it was not going to be a class where we learn how to write a speech that the president would give. We're learning how to talk to people comfortably about what it is you want to talk about, how to put your ideas on paper and share them, because a lot of times people have trouble sharing what it is they know or what they want to tell people. They just don't know how to put it into words, and that's what we learned in that class, was how to take what's in your head and put it in the world. Even if it comes out messy and all over the place and sloppy and weird, that was okay. You weren't giving people F's on their speeches for rambling too long about something they wanted to talk about.
Right.
And I think that was a really incredible thing to do, because I took another speech class later where it was the opposite of that, and I was I was very disappointed. I had a talk with that speech teacher, who I loved, by the way, and I was like, all right, listen, everybody in this class took it because of Ms. Van Oss, and they got you. They don't like you. I'm on your side.
Oh no.
I told her that.
Oh no. I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
No.
I was like, cool, she was having a hard time, and I really liked her, so I was like, let me help you out. Ms. Van Oss would do it like this.
So did things change?
Slightly, yes.
Oh wow.
And it was a great class. I actually loved that class. But it was just at the beginning of the year, I think it was funny, because I was like, you're giving people penalties if they go over a minute. They want to talk about what they want to talk about, which is something that you did, and I think really opened me up, because I was able to go talk about whatever I wanted to talk about. And I loved being in that class, and we became close in that class, but not nearly as close as we got the following year when I joined her theater class, which I would never have done if I wasn't in that speech class. Not once. And I used to think that as a joke. I was like, I will never do theater. That is hysterical. People would be like, don't you wish we had a theater program? Like, no, not at all.
Not
Why?
At all.
I want to sit at home and play video games all day.
Yes.
But at the end of my junior year in her speech class, Donna came to me and a couple of my friends who were in there, and she handed us a little flyer with the information for the theater classes we were getting ready to schedule. And she goes, I really think you guys would do great in this class. And I'm like, yeah. Well, I was like, yeah, because at that point, you had put it in my head that, like, I could do that.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, yes, this is exciting. Which, that's incredible that my last year in high school was the year we finally got a theater program there.
Yes, and that you were instrumental in it. You really were.
I had no idea it was going to be like that either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was excited to take it and I signed up, but I had no idea that I'd be so involved. But
Exactly.
I don't think I was so involved because I was your favorite or anything like that. I think I was involved because I became so passionate about it. Me and a couple of students, a few students, the students who really stepped up were the ones who were passionate about it and wanted to do those things. They wanted to stay late and come on days where they didn't have rehearsal, but watch the other kids rehearse and help them. And they wanted to write a play,
Yeah.
which is what we did.
I would love to tell that story.
Please, I would love that too.
So we did one play that had already been published, and we really enjoyed that play. And I had really, because it was the first year of the theater program, decided that one play is enough, and maybe we'll do like a variety show or whatever. And coming off of that play, everybody was like, please let us do another play.
We had an incredible group of students.
Oh, we absolutely did.
You knew that we could.
Well, and two big classes of 38 each. So I had two huge casts for the first play. And so I started reading plays in the catalogs where I could buy a play. And I found a few, and we read kind of over them in class, and we were like, it just didn't fit. It wasn't us. It didn't sound like us. And I have written plays in the past that have been published. And so I told the students, I'm like, if we just kind of do a series of scenes that connect, I think we can make our own production. So people started kind of giving me ideas and giving me their ideas for the different scenes for this play that we were writing about high school. I figured we should write about high school. And then somehow we found a framework, and the framework was just a classroom, like a homeroom classroom. And then there would be a classroom scene back and forth with a scene about like have a messy backpack or whatever. And it was just really so interesting to see how, I've always wanted to work collaboratively. It's very difficult for me to do any creativity by myself. I can, but for me, I feed off of other people's ideas.
That's why this is the David and Donna podcast.
That is correct. Otherwise, I would be doing it without you.
Creative conversations with Donna.
Donna, creative thoughts. Donna's creative thoughts.
It'd be a conversation because you talk to yourself.
Yeah, that would be kind of scary because I would probably answer myself. But anyway, so I needed someone to help me put all these things together, and I just kept asking people, who can help me write? Who can help me write? And David was the main one. I'll do it. And so we started just constantly emailing back and forth and getting our comments back and forth. And a few other people really contributed, but David contributed the most. And so I did say that the play was written by the two of us. And I really do believe that it wouldn't be what it was if we hadn't collaborated. But that started showing us that we had a connection that was very strong. And so that's why I suggested that we do another play together. And that one turned out really well. I was real happy with the second one that we wrote. And I really feel like there is so much more that we can do together. I think that we like to encourage each other in whatever we each want to do. But there's something that comes through us. And I think that's what makes this whole adventure so fascinating to me. I really enjoy it very much.
Every time we write something, whichever one of us is sitting at the computer typing, the other one is constantly giving out things that the other would never have thought of, but fit perfectly.
Yes.
Or actually, more often than not, we'll say something at the same time because it just clicked. This is how we want to do it.
Absolutely.
The amount of times that we were stuck on something, especially when writing this play, High School, Another Day, Another Test, the amount of times that we were stuck on something, and I know Ms. Vanoss, I know Donna was, at the time she was Ms. Vanoss, and I know she was stressing because she would talk to the class. She's like, I don't know what to do with this scene. What can we do with this scene? And I would come to her, I'm like, we do that. Just a simple little thing. A simple change. She goes, that's it. That's what we got to do.
Yeah.
I loved working on that play. That changed my life. I mean that seriously.
I believe you.
Because I loved acting in the first play that we did. I played 3 roles in that play, which I think we had enough people to have everybody have 1 role.
Right.
I did 3 because I wanted to. Yes. I loved being in the theater class because it really did unlock my love for entertaining people and also being the center of attention, but mostly entertaining people,
yes.
which I actually had to get brought back down because there was a point where I was like all about like center of attention because I just love doing it so much. And actually I've now learned like what's important is you're entertaining people. That's what you want to do. And I've come back down from my little mountaintop.
There's a story about that too.
Yeah, there are quite a few.
There's a very specific story, but you tell yours because I have one to say after you.
Okay, but I just loved acting. I didn't know that's something I'd be good at. I had no idea I'd be good at it. But I did a scene from one of my favorite movies, Chef, directed by Jon Favreau. and that was the first thing I did. And I think the bell was about to ring, and we knew it was, but I was just so excited because I've been reading my lines all day. I even brought a prop, which was a cake. I was like, I gotta do it today. We ran out of time. I'm like, nope, it's Vanos, I'm doing it. And I went up and did it. Everyone's getting out of their seats. I'm like, no, sit down. And I did the scene, and that changed my life because I was like, holy crap. I walked away and I was like, so guys, was that good? My friends are like, that was incredible.
Yeah, the whole class was just like mouth open, staring at you like,
Yeah.
wow.
I did it's if you've seen the movie Chef, it's molten scene, which is an interesting scene to do in a high school class.
That's true.
But it was incredible and I loved it. So when we did that play, I was at everything we could do. And then when we were writing the play, I was like, okay, let's do it. I had always loved writing, but I never really did it. I was in your creative writing club the year before, which sort of turned into the theater club in a way.
It did.
I think everybody who was part of the creative writing club ended up in theater.
I think so.
So I just started jumping at it. Every time she would say like, well, I think we should use this. I'm like, okay, got it. Boom. There were nights I would be asleep and I'd wake up at midnight, go over to my computer and type an email to her and just write up a scene. Just write up a brand new scene.
Yep.
We would get a month away from the production, full script, and I'm like, well, this scene would be really funny. And I write a whole new scene, like, we got to find a place for it because it's that good. We've got to put it in there somewhere. I think that's what happened with the gym scene, which was my favorite.
The play was 3 hours the first night. Like, so
Yeah.
we kind of overshot just a tad.
Mm-hmm.
We cut it down a bit, and we had to kind of make everything shorter with the transitions. And I don't think we cut anything out for our performance, but when we went to try to tailor it for publication, we trimmed it down quite a bit.
Yes,
we did get a bit overzealous there.
We had to cut out a lot of things.
We did. But we made it much better, though, I think. I think I would love to see the version when it gets published, to see somebody do that one, because we really streamlined it a lot. But I want to come back to the story I said I had. So when we did,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh God, when we did the first play, so David played Hansel, and it's just this crazy play where he gets on top of a prop and thinks that he can jump and fly, and he's supposed to jump off of the prop and splat on the ground and die. And so of course Gretel runs over there and is sad because Hansel is dead. But he was on top of. We used stairs like for a trailer as our prop, and he was on top of the stairs. And when he jumped, he pushed so hard that the stairs moved out from under him. And we have a picture of him in midair, and everybody in the audience went, I mean, it was just, I don't remember who I was sitting by, but I just grabbed their arm like, oh my God. I mean, I didn't know. I thought you were going to just smash your head. I was petrified. I was so glad you were okay after that. You just got so into jumping. You just jumped as hard as you could. And we got to find that. That's a picture we need to post on the website. I don't know what
I've
that
made
is.
a video of it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You do remember it then.
Yeah, I remember. That's what you're talking. I didn't know you were talking about that, but I do remember that. I never even knew that was an issue until like the next day in class. You were like, David, do you know what you did? We thought you died. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, but you had never done that in rehearsal. I guess you just got so into it that you just pushed with so much force.
I think the one you're talking about was the second time I actually performed it.
Okay.
So the night before, I did it, and it was great. It went so well, and I was like, yeah. So then I was super into it the next night, of course, and I guess that's what happened there.
Too much energy.
Too much energy. I was just so excited to. I was so excited to fall to my death.
Well, you about scared. You about killed me. Oh my God, that was quite a moment. Lord have mercy. And then you had the big scene in the other play that we wrote where you had to be all emotional on stage.
That was big for me because I wrote a character that was a bully that was really intense, really mean. It was a very intense role. Had to do a very intense scene, and he was a jerk. I mean. He was a very bad, wasn't a great person.
Right.
A bit more complex towards the end, as you find out. That's why I think it's so good. But
I don't think you ever thought you would play the role.
I wrote the role and wrote a few scenes for him, and I was like, this is great. But I never thought I'd be doing it. I actually had no idea what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Because I guess the closest one in my head would be the nerd character, but even that, I was like, I don't think that's really for me.
Yeah.
And then Ms. Vanos is like. Donna, by the time Miss Vanos is like, oh, well, you're gonna be Jonathan, right? Which is the bully, and I'm like, what? I am. She's like, well, I just kind of assumed. was like, oh,
Okay.
okay. And you had to really hype me up and be like, you can do it. Like no, you're not an actual horrible jerk person in real life, but you're acting.
You can play the role.
You can play the role. I feel bad talking about Jonathan like that, a horrible jerk person, and then also realizing that we casted our friend in it because we thought he'd be perfect for it.
Well, that is my cousin, so I will have to say that it was not because we thought he was a horrible jerk, but just like you, I could see in him that he would be able to bring that to the role. And I will have to just throw this in. One of my students last year at the end of the year was talking about just how much she enjoyed theater, and she said, it's like you see stuff in us that we don't see in ourselves. And I was like, oh, that is my role as a teacher and a director. I do feel like that. Like I can look at the students and see how they interact and how they speak and even how they audition. I'm like, okay, you'd be good here. And I've had so many people fight me on that. Like, I don't want to play this role. I'm not going to do this. And then they just blow it away on stage. I've had very few of the opposite. I feel like it's fun to kind of fit people in the right roles when I'm casting. I enjoy doing that.
It was a very big challenge for me, though. I was terrified to play that role. But you, what's our mission statement? You inspired me to use my creativity to express my unique gift to benefit to the world. So it was incredible. That experience changed my life. And then after that, of course, we had to write another play together. Before we wrote that other play, though, I was suddenly inspired to do something I wanted to do for a long time, which was make this short film called Homeroom, which I had the idea for months, and me and my friend developed it, and I just never did it. I let things hold me back, which is something that we really want to address through everything we do, is to stop letting things hold you back. Just to do it. We let things hold us back from doing this for so long. We could have done this a year ago, but we let things hold us back, and now we're just doing it. You guys do it. And I was in that mindset, and I got a bunch of my friends from theater together to make it. And it's a short film about a classroom, so we needed a classroom to film in. So of course we called Donna, and she let us use her classroom. And she had to be there while we were recording, even though she wasn't in it. Well, you made a little cameo from a cinematography mistake.
And oops, yes.
Yeah, a little oopsie, but she had to be there because it was her classroom. She had it unlocked for us, and in between takes is when she started asking about ideas for the next book we were going to write. So, and of course you did help us with Homeroom as we were working on it. It was good that you were there because we do work so well together, and a lot of things. Even this project that is my own thing, you were still pitching in ideas that I never would have thought about. And being there, we began writing our other play. And then that one we solely wrote by ourselves. We didn't have any other students contributing.
No, I do have to say, one time Seth came in when we were writing, and we were trying to figure out why our stinky character was stinky. Remember that day?
Not exactly.
I do, because we were really having a hard time with that character, and it was him that was like, what if he just stinks because he's always outside, like hunting? It was like, yes! And that just shaped that entire character, and it shaped so many aspects of the story. So it was not, I mean, we wrote it, but he definitely contributed. That helped a lot. I was very pleased that he threw that in.
Everything we do, there's always somebody who's snipping in.
Except this so far. So far, this is just us. Well, we'll see. But we want to bring everybody in.
We want to bring everybody in, yeah. I guess Jason was here, and did he contribute anything? I think he just said that's cool.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of been the reaction from everybody, which is good. You know what?
Well, he might have been one of the reasons I wanted to do this, because he said more than once that he really enjoyed listening to our commentary of Another Test, or Another Day, Another Test, more than actually watching the play itself. He just liked hearing us talk. And I thought, you know what? I bet a lot of people would like to hear us talk, because we just have such animated and fun and just fun conversations. I love it so much. So,
which is what you can expect. Yeah. We're not going to go on a nostalgia trip. Just every single.
No, but we got to establish who we are and how we.
I know. Just know this isn't going to be the high school theater podcast. No. That was a big part of our relationship.
Yes.
Well, and probably always will be, because that did change my life, and being a part of that is what led us to this.
Correct. That is correct. So we have big plans. You want to talk about that a little bit?
I want to talk about our big plans for our brand. Like I was just saying, this isn't going to be just the high school theater podcast. This is going to be the Creative Conversations of David and Donna podcast.
Yeah.
Part of exploring the creative process is talking to creative people. That's why we named this podcast Creative Conversations with David and Donna. And we already have several guests lined up for the following weeks to come in and talk to us about what they like to do, how they like to express their creativity and their gifts, and what they've accomplished and what they plan to accomplish, how they do it, what their process is like, and also just talk to them and have a nice conversation with these fun people that we love talking to already.
Right.
And hopefully we plan to expand that, talk to even more people that we think can really contribute to the whole.
And people that inspire us as well.
People that inspire.
I would love to interview some people that I've just always admired and see, how we can express that to them, like how what they did inspired us, so that now what we are doing could inspire others.
I think it's very important to explore. That's why I want to explore that so much in movies and TV, because I love that. I'm a big movie, TV, comic book guy. I'm all about that world, and so many of those kinds of things have changed my life, and so many people in that world have changed my life, that I would love to be able to talk to those kind of people and to explore what it is they did that touched me so deeply and taught me life lessons that I never would have known. I mean, just recently Toy Story 4 changed my life. And that movie came out a couple weeks ago, and I'm still like, wow, that has changed my life. That's already affected me in so many ways. So our big plans are to be able to talk to anyone we want to talk to.
Absolutely. And I would like to ask just about anybody who comes on the show, what is it that you have started and how did you get started? Because like David said earlier, we want to encourage people to not keep putting it off. I mean, as a 54-year-old, I can say that I have really thought about doing something more. Not that teaching is not fulfilling, but I know there's more for me to do. And it's like, I listen to all these motivational people and they talk about all these things that you have to do to get started and go ahead and do it and don't put it off and why are you waiting? And I don't know what clicked in me, but it has a lot to do with knowing that I had somebody to work with, but it was just time. It was time for us to start. And so I want, if anyone who is listening would like to talk to us about what it is you do and how you finally decided to get started or what you did as your first steps, those things are so important to me. And to us, I think really to everybody, like we can go back, I guess, eventually and talk about all of those steps that we've taken. But for us to get started, it was just like, I don't honestly remember why. I can just tell you that the thought in my head was that we talked so well with each other, and I just could see us interviewing people kind of like Regis and Kathy Lee. And what comes to mind is that when they did their show, they didn't rehearse at all. They just walked out on stage and their guest came out and they just spoke. And I thought, we could do that. We could so do that. And I honestly don't think that I would ever have that thought about anybody else. There's something about our conversations. But I do want to tell you that we have set up an email. So it's davidanddonnacreative@gmail.com. So if you would like to let us know that you want to come talk to us on our podcast, we're working on getting a way to do this remotely as well.
Yes.
So we could call you on Skype and have you on our podcast. Anything that you're doing creative that you just want to share with the world, tell us. Or if you're someone who's like, I really want to do something, but I don't know where to start, and you want to talk to us about that, we just want it to be an open forum. And personally, listening to people who have been where I am, okay, we're starting. It's just taking the first step. I mean, we don't know everything at this point. We're still trying to figure out how to put together our website, but we're doing it.
Yeah, we're in the process of it.
Right. And if you don't start, then it just will never be. So that's something that's very important to both of us, is talking to creative people about their process. How did they get started? What do they want to do next? And we'll just keep you, of course, updated on what we're doing next.
And I'd like to talk to those people so they can teach us how to do it.
Absolutely.
I think we're coming up in the next couple of weeks. We have somebody who makes music and his stuff is on iTunes. I want to know how to get on iTunes. I have no idea. And yeah, I could look up a YouTube tutorial, but I would much rather talk to him in person and get his advice and how he did it. So if you have anything like that to share, if you just want to put something out in the world, which is so important to me for people to be able to do, I wish that I had something like that. If you just want somebody to read something you said and put it on the internet somewhere, then please send us an email at davidandonnacreative@gmail.com with the subject Creative Podcast. If you just want to talk to us about what it is you're doing creatively, please put what it is you'd like. If you want to come on the show, if you just want us to read something you said, if you want us to read a question on air and answer it for you, we're happy to do all of those things. A big part of this has to be the audience. I think that's the most important part.
Oh, absolutely.
It's contributing to what it is they want to hear about. Because also, I really just want to talk about anything.
Me too.
I think that's important.
We do. That's the thing.
That's the
We
thing.
do
I
talk
want to talk about
anything.
anything. I think many times we're going to have hour-long conversations about what we did during the week. It's just going to tangent off like that.
Absolutely. So we will be putting this on our new YouTube channel, which is also
Yes.
David and Donna Creative. Is that how you get to it? How do you get to our YouTube channel?
David and Donna Creative. You don't get a custom URL link till you have a certain amount of subscribers, but as soon as we have those subscribers, we can get a custom URL link. Also, if this is up on anything other than YouTube, I will link to it down below in the description to the YouTube version of the podcast. Also, like Donna said, we do have a website that is in the works. That'll be live in the next coming weeks. We're building it. We have it. We're working on it. And we can't wait to share that. We will have a blog on there and share even more of our thoughts with the world. I think that's going to be a really big part of what it is we do in our brand is just the website, because you can find anything you need to know there. Our podcast will also be on the website too once that is live. But until then, the main place you can find this is our YouTube channel, David and Donna Creative on YouTube. And anywhere else that we hopefully can get this up on, I'm not sure, but that's going to be yet. So
you
soon.
can email us, but you can also comment.
Yes, you can please leave a comment. If there's anything you want us to talk about or hear ideas about, or if you have ideas for the website or the podcast, anything, please leave a comment below. We would love to hear your thoughts.
No, absolutely, and respond to them. Just so
Yes.
like we respond to everything.
We want
to respond.
I think that's an important part of the conversation, of the creative conversation.
Yes,
is the response.
Absolutely. So, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, like I just said, we will just be talking about anything. We will not only be talking to creative people, but we will share our thoughts about a variety of subjects.
Yes.
We won't have a guest on every single week,
No.
I'd say. No, but we will often. And with those guests, I would love to, if they have the time, to be a part of our conversation as well. Not just the interview part, but to stay on for the whole thing.
Yes. Just kind of tell us what they're thinking about.
I want to know people's thoughts. People's thoughts are so important just to put out there.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my first Twitter account. You don't have a Twitter, do you?
I actually do.
You do have a Twitter?
Yeah, it's because when I was trying to think about getting the book I wrote published, there's like these things you can tweet and different publishers will look at them. And otherwise, I just kind of get on it and go, what am I looking at? So that's something that David and I do.
We're going to get a Twitter.
Yeah.
We're going to get a David and Donna Creative Twitter.
Well, no, he is. I might occasionally try to tell him something I think would be nice. You
can text it to me and I'll tweet it for you.
Okay.
And I'll put Donna.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think I could probably learn how to do that. I mean, I'm not completely illiterate with social media, but I do have 2 teenage children. And watching my daughter in particular, she just constantly types, takes a picture, sends it. And I'm like, how many pictures of yourself do you take a day? I'm so completely baffled by it all. But I mean, it's a generational difference.
Well, me being a 19-year-old in college, by the way, I'm a communication major at Southeastern.
Oh, we should tell that story. Go back.
Go back?
Okay, so we need to go back. So when David was a senior, he and I hosted our very first awards together.
Oh, yes.
And at that time, he wanted to be a teacher. He actually wanted to be me. So
it
was not a joke. We even announced at the...
It was not a joke. I did want to.
Really, we announced at the theater banquet that the grand plan, again, we have all that on video as well. If you want to.
Yes, I'll link that below.
Yeah,
all of that stuff we've talked about is on the Denham Springs Theater YouTube channel.
Right. But we announced to the world at that particular, that the plan was for David to go to college and be pretty much out and ready to take over the theater department when I retired. And so I remember one day I was like, David, I don't ever want you to feel pressured by that at all. Mm-hmm. Like if you decide that you want to change your mind, that's perfectly understandable. I mean, the theater program will continue one way or the other once I leave. And so he decided to change his major. So I remember that story about like walking out of like the career fair or something.
Yeah, well, you're one of the first people I texted when that happened. I was struggling with some of the classes that were required for the English education major. It just wasn't a great time, but I was sticking with it. But I was having doubts. Suddenly things didn't make sense anymore. And they still kind of don't. I'm still figuring that out, but that's why I'm excited for this podcast. I think this podcast will help me figure that out. But I was at this career fair, which I had to go to for a class. I didn't go there because I wanted to. It was part of a class to go here. And basically all of the departments at the college had a little booth set up, and I spent close to an hour there walking around, and I'm getting ready to leave. I filled out my sheet, everything I need, and I'm about to walk out the door, but then something turns my head to a booth that I haven't seen the entire time I've been there. I just missed it somehow, which is the communication booth.
Yep.
No one's there, completely open. Nobody's there, just a guy standing there. I was like, I'm just gonna go over there. Let's go see what's up.
In my head, I imagined kind of like the single light, kind of like the
pretty much is what I saw, because
yeah.
everything else blacked out. I just walked over there, and I ended up having like a 30-minute conversation with this guy about the communication department and everything they have to offer. And it was all clicking with me. I'm like, I want to do that. I want to do that. He's talking about the classes you take. I'm like, why am I not doing that right now? That's what I want to do. And so now I'm a communication major. I left out of that job fair, and I texted my parents, and I texted Ms. Van Os, and I was like, should I do this? And every single one of them was like, yes, you definitely should. Because if you're texting us this excited about it, then yes, this is something you should do. And they all agreed that it's something that really fit me. And now I am a communication major. I haven't chosen a specialty. I don't know if I will, because I love doing everything, but I got to narrow it down a little bit, probably. We'll see what happens. I don't have everything figured out, but I think that's okay. I think it's okay not to.
Absolutely. That's a big thing that I try to encourage my students to understand, is that, I mean, sometimes in 6th grade, and here we go off on the school tangent again, but I'm sorry.
That's okay.
They're asking kids to figure out what they're going to take all the way through high school so they'll be ready for their college. And I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, most people in college change their major, 4 or 5 times?
I think the average is like 4 times.
It's okay, I will get off of that high horse, but I do want to say something about your experience. So for me, I can just kind of jump into some of my content here. When David talked to me about the job fair and how he turned around, there was nobody at the booth, and it was kind of like, literally, you felt like you were drawn to it, like you were about to leave, and something physically like turned your head. So this is where I'm like, universe. So I feel like there's definitely guidance, and I had that same guidance when I was in college. I was walking back from a class let me just back up a bit. When I graduated from high school, everybody knew I was going to be a teacher except me. I mean, I got a scholarship for future teachers. I was a teacher in high school, basically. Like, everybody who had a class with me would ask me for help. It was just who I was, and I just didn't realize that. So I had taken, computer classes or whatever, which was totally not my thing, like, at all. But I was walking back to my dorm one day, and I felt, I can only describe it like something just fell into me, like, you're a teacher. And I just knew, I'm like, okay, I'm a teacher. And so from that point on, I pursued education. And I've had several moments like that in my life. And what's so interesting to me is that since I've decided, or I should back up, I guess, and say, since I asked David and we decided that this is something we're going to actually pursue, I have had that experience several times, that things have just fallen into me. I feel like this is the universe's way of saying, okay, you're on the right path. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And some of those things will be things that we actually will turn into programs or things for you to read, and we'll talk more about those when they become available. But
I'm very excited for it.
Me too.
It might be what I'm most excited for.
Exactly. But one of the things I would love to hear from our listeners is if you've ever had that kind of experience, when you felt like you just knew, like, something just turned your head or fell into you. I have been writing before. I'll be typing at the keyboard, and I'm thinking, I need an idea. And I just need something to come, and it just comes through. And I know people have felt that before. It's just such a cool feeling. To me, that's the whole creative outlet. It's once you get in that zone, and people can talk about the zone, like even in athletics, it's it's like you're doing what you're supposed to do. And I just think that is so important and so much fun to talk about. So have you ever had experiences like that where things just like came through you?
I've had moments where something happens and I realize, holy crap, a week ago when this thing happened, it was because this was gonna happen.
Yes, yes.
You are really into this mindset that I would love to get at one day. I hope you know I'm not quite there yet.
I definitely see it growing in you.
This mindset of that everything is connected and the universe can make these things happen, and I think it's amazing. And I'm with you. And there are things that I cannot explain, but there are things that you know about me that I'm like, how did you even know?
Should we tell the story?
Yes, we should. We should tell the story.
Okay, so I will preface it with I meditate every day, and so I was in my meditation the morning before David was supposed to come and work with me, and he couldn't come over until after 3:30 or whatever because he was at work. And he even texted me to say that changing shifts was taking a little minute and he was going to be a little bit later. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I try to be real laid back about stuff and not worry. That's one of the things I've worked on all my life is to just not let things bother me. It is what it is and just go with it. So he gets here, and I think it was after the first day that we were going to really start this. And we were both just like jumping out of our skin, excited about it.
The day we started our website.
Yeah, it was. So we just needed to kind of talk because we really hadn't seen each other in a while, and we had to kind of catch up. So we talked and talked and talked, and then I just kind of laughed, and I'm like, well, David, I know something. I don't know how I know it, but there's something you don't want to tell me, so you might as well tell me. And he just flat denied it. He just straight up denied it. He's like, no. I said, well, I get these insights sometimes, and sometimes I'm wrong, but there's something you don't want to tell me. And he just kind of blew it off. And I don't know, how were you feeling at that time? What did you feel when I first said that to you?
My heart was at my feet. And this is going to be quite the plot twist. And we've even told him what it is. I'm not telling you yet.
But
I was like, no. No. I was like sitting there thinking, like, no, I can't think of anything. And I was like, what?
And I was at the point where I'm like, well, I must have just a random thought. But
and then I felt bad because. Then I told her because she's like, well, I guess I was wrong. I'm usually right about these kinds of things. And I'm like, well, now I feel bad because you think she's wrong, but she's right. Because what I hadn't told her was that actually the night before at like 11:30 at night, my friend who works with me called me and said, hey, I really need an extra shift this week. Can I take your shift tomorrow? And I said, yeah. So now I don't have work. And I could theoretically come over and start working super, super early and have even more time to work. But I couldn't because now what happened is because I don't have work, I have to take care of my dog. My dog's still a puppy, so we don't like to leave him alone for too long. He's still a little puppy. Today he graduated his first round of puppy school though, so good for Socks. Yay, Socks.
Yay, Socks. But come back and learn more about you.
I have to take care of my puppy. And it's late at night. I'm not gonna text Donna. The next day, I have horrible anxiety, and it just went through my head that for some reason I just should not tell her that my shift was taken. And then it came up that I was going to actually stay a little longer to help take care of Socks because my sister was going to get home a little late. And so what I said was, instead of just explaining like a rational, normal human being, I said, oh, shift's taking a while because she thinks I'm at work. So, yeah, shift changing's taking a little bit.
And I'm like, okay, that's not big.
Yeah, I mean, I should have, but at that point I'm dug into this lie where I should have woken up at 8 a.m. and been like, hey, I actually don't have work today, but I'm still not able to come till like 3:30. And then it's done. It's done. Just like, did you think I was going to be angry? I'm like, no, I knew you wouldn't be angry. But just, I have horrible anxiety, and I'm sure many people experience this. Apparently you don't because you're just the queen of just no,
so
which is
impressive. You thought about me from the beginning?
What?
From like the first time you met me?
That you were just like the queen of
yes.
like not king. I think so. I think you've always had that aura of like, oh, she's cool. You've always had this presence of like she's got her crap together.
Oh.
Which that might not even be true. I don't know, but
I present it.
But you present it because it's like you're not stressed about anything. I've seen you stressed before.
Yes,
I've seen you angry.
Very few people have.
I've seen you stressed and angry.
Yes.
It has blown my mind when I saw you like that. Like, I didn't know if you were serious. Like, the first time that I was with you when you got angry, I thought you were joking.
Do you remember what it was about?
I do remember. I don't think we can
I
talk
understand
about
what you're saying. There was something about the play. It was stress about the play. Was it?
No.
No. Okay, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we'll talk because we can't talk about it here. But it was like, what? And then I went to my friends. I'm like, because a lot of my friends, which I think is impressive too. Something that I think is incredible is that you brought me and my friends to be even closer friends.
Oh.
I don't know if you ever realized that. I'm sure you did. I became close friends with everybody in that theater class. But three of my best friends, one who's like my best friend in the world, I never thought he could do something like theater, but then he took the class because I was in it, and then you unlocked something inside of that was incredible. Anyway, I went to them, I was like, guys, I saw Vanoss Mad, and like, oh my God, it was the most insane thing I've ever seen, because you just don't get angry.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I think you've talked about it as like, you just trained your brain just not to.
Well,
Right?
my children would tell you a different story.
Oh.
I will share that with you. It is very different when you're at home. It really is.
Yeah.
So anybody who's struggling.
I've never seen you angry at a student.
Yeah. I don't think I've been angry with students.
I've never seen you. I've seen students do the stupidest, most like, what the heck are you doing things I've ever seen in front of you, like just be insane, and you're just like just sitting there. Like it's like they might be yelling at you, and you're sitting in your comfy chair at the end. You're like, okay. Well, and I'm like, how are you not freaking out on it? I've never seen you mad at it. You have hit me in the head with the clipboard before.
I did. I have hit a few people. The other person that played Jonathan we were talking about earlier, my cousin, he did something. He was just such a smart aleck. Oh my God. He just made some ridiculous comment, and I walked over to hit him with my clipboard, and I broke the clipboard. So, yeah, that was not anger. That was just more, and I didn't even mean to hit him that hard. I didn't even realize I had broken the clipboard until later, but that was kind of funny.
You remember why you hit me, right?
I do not.
I had a project.
Oh, I do remember. Oh my goodness. Inappropriate. Yes, I do remember that.
Honestly, I can tell like that.
Oh, sure.
I was giving a speech, and the speech was on like, I don't even remember why it was about this, but it was about optical illusions. And I was going through some of them, and one of them was an inappropriate optical illusion.
Yes, it was.
And she came up on the slideshow, and she hit me in the head.
Yes, I did.
At that point, it was like the end of the year, and I'm like, there's no way she's gonna like, what you gonna do? Apparently hit me in the head with the clipboard.
I wanted to say something else about, it was just a thought that came up earlier.
But that's what's great. We can just talk about thoughts that are in our head.
Thoughts that come up. So you did, other than the commentary podcast with me, you had your own kind of little podcast there for a second. So you want to talk about that? I don't remember what was the kind of the purpose of the.
It wasn't much of a purpose. It was one of those things where I had thoughts I wanted to put in the world, and this was just a way to do it.
It's what led us to this, which is so cool.
It is sort of what led us to this. It was the first podcast. It's how I know how to do this.
Right.
It happened because of you. It was with two students from theater that I did it with, and we would talk to other kids from theater. It was a very funny podcast. I really enjoyed it. I just kind of stopped doing it. I sort of played with what we're doing now, which is interviewing creative people.
Yeah, I remember that. You interviewed Trey.
And Dre. I did.
Yes,
who
right.
will be? Can we go ahead and just announce that that's
absolutely.
Yeah. Sure. One of the guests we're gonna have is gonna be incredible. It's his stage name is DCITM, but we know him as Dre, being one of our friends. He makes music. He's gonna provide us with an incredible intro theme song for this podcast, and we love everything he's done. He was in theater with me, and I worked very close with him on working on Another Day, Another Test. Our characters were tied to each other in a very important way, and we got very close, and he's just an incredible person and has an incredible mind. He says things that I'm like, where did that come from? I would have never thought about something like that. And he makes great music and just has such a unique creative process about him. I've seen his notes, and they make no sense to me. Have you seen his notes?
I think he's shown me a few before.
They're just insane. We'll talk about it. We'll save it for him, but it's going to be incredible, and I can't wait to talk to him coming up.
Well, I have listened to all your podcasts, and I have to tell you, that one time you were talking about me. He basically talked about me, I think, in every podcast.
Yeah.
But one time he said, I just love Vanos. She loves me more than I love me. And I went, oh, you did. You said that.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Said that. I
I
don't
think
know
so.
if you ever knew that I thought about that. But.
No, I don't think so. I think there are a lot of things that are going to come up in this podcast. Like, you thought about that, or you thought that thing. Right. I'm excited for that.
Me too.
I'm excited to learn more about each other.
Yes.
Because we think we know a lot, but I'm sure there's plenty we can unlock.
Oh, absolutely.
I know.
No doubt.
Yeah. Obviously, because you just laughed. I'm sure many things came into your head. You have no idea.
Well, the thing is, if you thought it was crazy that I got mad, I mean, literally, my temper is something I have dealt with my entire life. It really
I've had a bit
is.
of a temper problem, but I've dealt with it a lot recently, and a big help to you because a lot of times something recently happened where somebody I think they lied to me.
Yes.
I think they lied to me, and I know that they did. Well, I if I am correct, they have lied to me, and I realize it as soon as they say it, and I'm livid.
Yeah.
I'm ticked, as you might say, and I'm on the phone with this person, and I just don't talk for like 10 seconds. Just don't say anything. And I think about it, I'm like, if I confront them about the lying, and I am right, which they probably will not admit it, because I know this person, they will not admit that they're lying. But if they are, and they admit that they're lying, I will get back some shirts. But that's after going through an annoying conversation process that I do not want to deal with. It's not worth it. You have to learn to weigh if it's worth it or not. And that's something I've dealt with a lot. And because even when you should be angry, you have a right to be angry. You don't have to for yourself.
The word, where's my word? Validated, that's not the word. I'm sorry, I can't think of the word, but when you feel like you have the right to be angry, there's a word that I used to say. Entitled? When you're entitled, when you feel entitled to be angry, that's something I've really had to work on.
Really? I would have never known that, honestly, because you're so calm. Like I said, I've seen many things happen with students where I'm like, things get crazy. Here's the thing about your class being laid back. It's incredible, but some people are like...
They don't know how to handle it.
They don't know how to handle it.
You're right.
They do not deserve the privilege. Because they're like, oh, well, that means that I can... I mean, I'm thinking of things right now that aren't even appropriate to talk about on this podcast.
I hear you.
Which is insane, thinking it's a high school class.
I think we're going to have a very interesting conversation after we turn off.
Oh, yes, that's going to be fun. David and Donna After Dark.
That'll be a different podcast. Yes.
That'll be on the Patreon.
Right.
Which we should work on. We should talk about all the things that we should work on getting that are coming.
Well, I don't know. What do you think would be the next big one?
The next big one? Well, the next big thing that's coming is our website.
Yes.
I cannot wait for that. And I want to talk so badly about the most recent thing we started. You know what I'm talking about? That we were so passionate about it and so excited with it. We're almost done with it.
Right.
But I want to wait. I want to save that one.
Yeah, we have to wait because we're not quite sure that we're finished. And we definitely want to share it, but we want to get it where we're
not quite sure that it's finished. We got the website coming. We will be making this a weekly podcast, uploaded every Sunday at the exact same places. You'll find it every time. As we get more, I'll tell you about more. I am going to start a Twitter for us, David and Donna Creative.
I'll do a Facebook.
You do a Facebook.
That part, yeah.
I think you should definitely do a Facebook.
Yes.
And we'll get you more information about that. By the time this is uploaded, we'll have all that information ready for you in the description. Check back here next Sunday for the next show. Please comment anything you want to say, anything you want to share with the world. Don't forget our email, davidanddonnacreative@gmail.com. Please send us your thoughts. We would love to know. And if you have something you want us to talk about on the podcast, please leave a subject, Creative Podcast. That's davidanddonnacreative@gmail.com. And I can't wait for our website to come up. I was about to say, and our website is, but nope, not quite yet.
Not quite ready.
But when this is uploaded, if the website is ready, that link will be in the description as well.
Yes, it will.
This has been a great show.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening. I'm David.
I'm Donna.
Stay creative.